The Galactic Empire believed its borders were perfect. For hundreds of cycles, no enemy ship had crossed deep into Imperial space without permission. Long-range sensors, layered fleets, and ancient defense stations guarded every major route. The Empire taught its citizens that safety was absolute and fear was unnecessary. That belief shattered in a single quiet moment at the edge of a blue-white nebula. An Imperial monitoring station detected a shadow where nothing should exist. The signal was slow, heavy, and enormous. At first, operators thought it was a sensor error. Then the shadow moved closer. Alarm lights spread across the station. Officers rushed to their consoles, speaking in sharp, nervous voices. The object did not match any known Imperial design. It did not transmit a code. It did not hide either. It moved forward with calm confidence, as if the Empire itself was empty space. The report reached the capital within minutes. Emperor Kellan stood inside the high command chamber, staring at the massive hologram floating in the air. The image showed a single ship, dark gray, covered in thick armor plates. Its shape was blunt and simple, without decorative curves or glowing symbols. It looked old, almost crude, yet massive in a way that made experienced admirals uneasy. Admiral Rethus narrowed his eyes. He had studied every major species in the galaxy. He recognized this design. "It is human," Rethus said. The chamber went silent. Humans were known, but rarely respected. They controlled a small region far from the core worlds. Their technology was considered slow and practical. Their ships were seen as outdated and unrefined. The Empire had never seen a reason to fear them. Kellan's voice was calm, but tight. "How did a human battleship pass our outer lines?" No one answered. More data arrived. The ship was not running stealth systems. It was not using unknown jump methods. It had simply moved through Imperial space, ignoring warning zones and patrol routes. Like someone walking through an unlocked door. That should not be possible, Rethus said quietly. The human ship continued forward, stopping only when it reached a position dangerously close to a major Imperial world. It did not attack. It did not flee. It waited across the vast distance. Inside the human battleship, Captain Jiho stood on the bridge. He was calm, his posture relaxed, his eyes focused on the main display. The bridge was simple and clean. No golden symbols, no banners, only practical controls and clear screens. Officer Tiemann monitored weapon systems. His fingers moved smoothly, without hurry. "All systems stable," he said. "No power spikes from the Empire." Strategist Juan studied Imperial fleet movements. Dozens of ships were gathering, forming a loose ring around the battleship. "They are confused," Juan said. "They do not know if we are a threat or a mistake." Jiho nodded. "Let them think." Crew member Era adjusted sensor focus, zooming in on nearby Imperial cruisers. "They look nervous," she said. "Their formations are uneven." Jiho allowed a small smile. "That means our message is already working." The human ship had not come by accident. It had not come to conquer. It had come to be seen back in the Imperial capital. Fear spread through command circles. News of the human battleship leaked to officials, merchants, and planetary leaders. Rumors grew fast. Some said the humans had secret allies. Others claimed the ship was a trick, a decoy for a larger invasion. Emperor Kellan listened as advisors argued. "Destroy it now," one general demanded. "If we hesitate, we show weakness. Or we provoke a war we do not understand," another replied. Admiral Rethus remained silent until the room calmed. "Humans do not act without reason," he said. "This ship is not hiding. It wants us to react." Kellan looked back at the hologram. "Then we will speak." A communication signal was sent toward the human battleship. It was formal and cold, demanding identification and immediate withdrawal. On the human bridge, the message appeared on the main screen. Timin glanced at Geo. "Do we answer?" "Yes," Geo said. "In their language." Era's eyes widened slightly. "They will not expect that." Geo folded his hands behind his back. "They never expect humans to prepare." The reply was brief, polite, and clear. The human battleship identified itself, acknowledged Imperial authority, and stated it would remain in position. Until formal talks were arranged, the message shocked. The Empire more than silence would. "Have. They speak our command language perfectly," an advisor whispered. "They know our protocols," another added. Kellan felt a strange pressure in his chest. This was not the behavior of a weak species. As Imperial fleets tightened their ring, smaller ships moved closer, testing reactions. One cruiser powered its weapons briefly, just enough to send a warning. On the human ship, alarms remained silent. "They are trying to scare us," Era said. Geo shook his head. "They are scared themselves." Juan leaned closer to the display. "If they fire, it will be limited. They want control, not destruction." Geo considered the moment. "Then we give them nothing to control." Hours passed. Tension built. Imperial commanders argued over every move. The human battleship stayed still, its engines quiet, its weapons hidden beneath thick armor. Finally, a single Imperial ship moved forward, crossing a line that was never meant to be crossed. Its weapons locked onto the human vessel in the capital. Gasps filled the chamber. On the human bridge, Timin spoke calmly. "Weapons locked on us." Geo did not move. "Hold position." The Imperial ship fired a low-power shot. Aimed to disable sensors, the energy struck the human battleship and vanished against its shields, barely leaving a ripple. Silence followed. Imperial sensors struggled to understand what they had seen. The human shields were old in design, but layered in ways no one recognized. "They absorbed it," Rithis said slowly. "Without adjustment." Kellan's expression hardened. "They could have fired back." "Yes," Rithis agreed. "And they chose not to." On the human bridge, Era released a breath she had been holding. Shield integrity unchanged. Geo finally spoke with quiet authority. "Send no response. Let them think." The Imperial ship backed away. Across the Empire, fear shifted into something deeper. Confusion became doubt. Doubt became respect. The human battleship remained where it was, unmoving, unthreatening, and impossible to ignore. For the first time in generations, the Galactic Empire began to ask a dangerous question. If a single human ship could come this close, what else had humanity been hiding all this time? The silence around the human battleship lasted longer than anyone expected. Imperial fleets held their positions, weapons ready but unused. No one wanted to be the first to make a mistake. Every commander understood that something had changed, even if they did not yet know what it meant. In the Imperial capital, Emperor Kellan sat alone for a long moment after the council ended. The chamber was empty, but the image of the human ship still floated in the air. It looked simple, almost plain, yet it carried a weight that pressed against his thoughts. Kellan remembered the reports about humans. A small species, slow expansion, few allies, no great victories, nothing that should threaten an empire like his and yet the ship was there. Admiral Rithis entered quietly. "Our fleets are holding," he said. "No further movement from the humans." Kellan did not look away from the hologram. "They are forcing us to watch them." "Yes," Rithis replied. "And we are doing exactly that." Across Imperial space, analysts began digging through old records. Human trade routes, old border conflicts, minor wars that were barely noted at the time. At first, Nothing seemed important. Humans lost territory. Humans retreated. Humans accepted unfair treaties. Then patterns appeared in every conflict. Humans survived. They bent, but never broke. They learned enemy tactics quickly. They never revealed their strongest weapons. They never fought more than they needed to. One analyst spoke carefully. They were studying us. The room went quiet. Meanwhile, inside the human battleship, life continued with calm routine. Lights were steady. Systems hummed softly. No one rushed. Captain Jiho walked the bridge, hands clasped behind his back. He stopped beside Era, who was watching Imperial fleet movements. "They are reorganizing," she said. Slowly. "They are afraid of making the wrong move," Jiho replied. Timan leaned back in his seat, eyes on weapon readouts. "We could leave now," he said. "They would still remember this." Jiho shook his head. "Memory fades. Lessons stay only when pressure remains." Juan stepped closer. "Imperial command is divided," he said. "Some want to strike. Others want to talk." Jiho nodded. "That is good. Division weakens certainty." The humans had waited many years for this moment. For decades, they had watched the Empire expand, pushing smaller species aside, demanding tribute, rewriting laws. Humans were ignored because they seemed harmless. That had been useful. On a distant Imperial world, a minor council gathered in secret. Representatives from smaller species spoke in low voices. "The human ship is real," one said. "It stands where none of us ever could. Do you think they will fight for us?" Another asked. "We do not know," came the reply. But for the first time, the Empire hesitates. Hope, small and dangerous, began to spread. Back in the capital, Emperor Kellen ordered a second message sent to the human ship. This one was less demanding. It requested explanation. The message arrived on the human bridge. Era read it aloud. "They want to know why we are here." Jiho considered his answer. He knew every word would be studied, repeated, and feared. "Send this," he said. The reply stated that the human battleship was conducting a lawful presence operation. It said humanity wished to ensure stability and fairness along Imperial borders. It ended with a single line: "Humanity will not move backward again." The words spread through Imperial command like fire. "That sounds like a warning," a general said. "It sounds like a promise." Rethus answered. Kellen felt the truth settle in his mind. Humans were not here to threaten openly. They were here to change the rules without firing a shot. Imperial fleets tested the humans again. Small probes moved closer. Sensor pings brushed against the battleship's hull. Each time, the human ship allowed it, revealing only surface data. What are they hiding? An officer asked. "Everything that matters," Rithis replied. Inside the human ship, Eugen worked quietly in engineering. Power flowed through systems that looked old, but were tuned with extreme care. Layers within layers. Redundancy upon redundancy. Era joined her. "Do you think they will attack?" Eugen shook her head. "Not yet. They are still counting." On the bridge, Jiho watched Imperial ships drift into tighter formation. He knew patience was harder than battle. "They think we are alone," Timan said. "We are," Jiho replied. "But that does not mean we are weak." Far away, a group of Imperial admirals met without approval. They feared that delay made the Empire look fragile. One of them gave an order that was never meant to be given. A strike group began moving forward. The movement was small, almost hidden, but Juan noticed it immediately. "They are preparing a controlled attack," he said. "Limited force." Jiho closed his eyes for a moment. They need to believe they tried everything. Imperial weapons powered up again. Energy levels rose, higher than before, but still not enough for full destruction. In the capital, Kellen felt something was wrong. Call them back, he ordered. It may be too late, Rethus said. On the human bridge, alarms finally sounded, soft but clear. Teeman spoke evenly. Multiple locks. They will fire. Jiho opened his eyes. Activate secondary shields only. Erao looked at him. Only secondary? Yes, he said. They need to see restraint. The Imperial strike hit. Energy slammed into the human battleship, stronger than before. Light flashed across the hull. Imperial crews waited for damage reports. The human ship drifted slightly, then stabilized. Shields held. Imperial sensors showed minimal impact. They survived again. Someone whispered this time. Jiho responded. Prepare demonstration, he said. A single human weapon system activated. It did not glow or roar. It released a focused pulse that crossed space in silence. 3 Imperial ships lost power at once. Their weapons shut down. Their engines went dark. Hulls remained intact. No lives were lost. The message was clear. On the Imperial bridge of the strike leader, panic spread. They could have destroyed us. Yes, the commander said quietly. And they chose not to. In the capital, Emperor Kellen lowered himself into his throne. They are teaching us, he said. Rethus nodded. And we are learning. The human battleship returned to silence. Across the galaxy, every watching world understood one thing. Humans were no longer asking for space. They were taking responsibility for it. The loss of power in the 3 Imperial ships sent shockwaves through the Empire. They drifted helplessly, alive but silent, surrounded by their own fleets. No explosions followed. No human attack came after. The restraint was more frightening than destruction. Imperial commanders stared at their screens, unsure what to do next. Every plan they had prepared was built around force, not patience. The human battleship remained still, its dark hull reflecting distant starlight. As calm as before. In the capital, Emperor Kellen rose from his throne. His voice echoed through the command chamber. Cease all unauthorized attacks, he ordered. No ship fires without my direct command. Some admirals lowered their eyes. Others clenched their jaws. Pride had been wounded, and wounded pride was dangerous. Admiral Rethus stepped forward. The humans are controlling the pace, he said. Every move we make only proves they understand us better than we understand them. Cullen looked tired. Then we must change how we think. Across space, on the human battleship, Captain Jiho stood watching the disabled Imperial ships. Medical signals showed no life loss. That mattered. They will not forget this, Teeman said. They should not. Jiho replied. Era checked incoming transmissions. No new threats. Their fleets are pulling back slightly. Juan allowed himself a small breath of relief. Fear is turning into caution. Jiho nodded. The most useful state. Inside the Empire, something unexpected began to happen. News spread beyond military channels. Civilians learned that a single human ship had crossed the deepest defenses and survived repeated attacks. The idea that the Empire was untouchable began to crack. On distant worlds, smaller species watched closely. Some remembered old losses caused by Imperial expansion. Some remembered human traders who paid fairly and left peacefully. Hope grew quietly. In the capital, political pressure rose fast. Governors demanded answers. Merchant guilds feared instability. Religious leaders questioned ancient beliefs about imperial destiny. Kellan called for a limited council. Only trusted voices were allowed. We must open talks, he said. A general protested. Talking now shows weakness. Rethus answered calmly. Refusing to talk shows fear. Silence followed. A new message was sent to the human battleship. This one requested a formal meeting between representatives. On the human bridge, Era read it twice. They want dialogue. Chiho turned to Vaughn. They are ready. Ready for what? Teeman asked. Ready to listen, Chiho replied. The human response agreed to talks, but set conditions. No weapons powered. Neutral location. Equal status. The Empire hesitated, then accepted Dot as preparations began. Not all Imperial forces obeyed the ceasefire. A hidden faction within the Navy believed the Emperor had lost resolve. They planned to restore honor through decisive action. Juan detected unusual movement. Several ships have broken formation, he said. They are masking signals. Chiho's expression hardened. So they choose the hard lesson. The rogue fleet moved fast, aiming to surround the human battleship from blind angles. Their weapons powered up to full strength. On the human bridge, alarms sounded again, louder this time. Teeman spoke firmly. Multiple heavy signatures. This is not a test. Chiho did not hesitate. Activate full defensive grid. Layers of shields came alive, invisible but strong. Power flowed through systems the humans had, refined for generations. The first Imperial barrage struck. Space lit up with energy. The human battleship shook, but held steady. Damage reports showed surface scoring, nothing more. They are trying to overwhelm us, Era said. They cannot, Chiho replied. Not like this. The rogue fleet pressed harder. Missiles and beams filled the void. Imperial commanders believed sheer volume would break human defenses. It did not. Chiho raised his hand. Return fire. Precision only. Human weapons spoke again, calm and exact. Targeted pulses disabled engines, weapons, and command systems. One by one, Imperial ships fell silent. No explosions. No drifting debris fields. Just silence. Inside the rogue fleet, panic turned into disbelief. They are shutting us down, a commander shouted. They are choosing what survives. Within minutes, the battle was over. Imperial ships floated powerless around the human battleship like frozen insects. Back in the capital, Kalan watched the data arrive. His hands trembled slightly. They ended it, he said. Without destroying them. Rethus nodded. This is not conquest. This is control. The Emperor closed his eyes. Then the Empire must adapt or break. On the human ship, Yujing reported stable systems. We used less than 10% output. Era looked at Chiho. They will fear us now. Chiho shook his head. Fear fades. Understanding lasts. A final message was sent to the Empire. It stated that the rogue fleet had been neutralized and would be returned once talks began. The tone was respectful. The meaning was not. Across the galaxy, the event spread fast. Stories changed from rumors to facts. Humanity was no longer a footnote. On many worlds, voices rose quietly. Maybe the Empire could be challenged. Maybe it could be changed. The human battleship remained in position, unbroken, patient, and watching. For the Galactic Empire, the line had been crossed. There was no return to the old certainty. From this moment on, the galaxy would remember that humans did not rush into war. They finished it when forced. The aftermath of the battle spread through the Galactic Empire like a slow wave. The rogue fleet had been neutralized, not destroyed. Their crews were alive, their ships intact but powerless. This detail disturbed the Empire more than a massacre would have. Imperial citizens began asking questions. Why would an enemy show mercy? Why would a supposed weak species control a battle so completely? The old stories about humans no longer fit. In the capital, Emperor Kellen stood before a wide council chamber filled with leaders from many systems. Fear sat heavy in the room. No one spoke loudly anymore. The humans have returned our ships, Kellen said. They demand talks, not surrender. Murmurs spread. A governor stood. If they wanted us gone, we would already be gone. Admiral Rethus nodded. That is the truth many refuse to face. Pressure built from every direction. Some demanded peace at once. Others called for one final war to protect imperial pride. The empire felt old for the first time. Far from the capital, smaller worlds watched carefully. Some began to speak openly against imperial rule. Others sent quiet messages toward human space, asking questions they had never dared ask before. On the human battleship, Captain Jiho read intercepted communications with calm focus. "They are fracturing," he said. Juan folded his arms. "Empires always do when certainty dies." Era checked diplomatic channels. Several non-imperial worlds want contact. Jiho considered this. "We will answer later. First, the Empire must decide who it wants to be." The meeting location was chosen at the edge of imperial space. Neutral ground. Empty stars. No hidden stations. Imperial delegates arrived first. Their ships kept distance, weapons offline. Nervous energy filled their bridges. Then the human battleship arrived. It did not rush. It did not threaten. It simply appeared and stopped, steady and confident. Inside the meeting chamber aboard an Imperial cruiser, Callan waited. Admiral Rethus stood beside him. Both felt the weight of history pressing close. A human shuttle docked quietly. Captain Jiho entered the chamber with Era and Juan. No guards followed them. Their posture was calm, respectful, and unafraid. For a moment, no one spoke. Callan broke the silence. "You crossed defenses that were never breached." Jiho met his gaze. "They were never tested properly." The words were simple. The meaning was sharp. Rethus studied Jiho carefully. "Why now?" Jiho answered without hesitation. "Because silence protected the wrong people." The talks were slow and tense. The Empire demanded explanations. Humans presented records gathered over decades. Evidence of forced relocations. Broken treaties. Worlds stripped of resources. Era displayed data calmly. We watched. We learned. We waited. Callan felt shame settle deep in his core. Why not stop us earlier? Jiho's voice remained steady. We were not strong enough yet. That truth echoed through the chamber. Outside the meeting, news spread that talks had begun. Imperial citizens reacted with shock, anger, and relief all at once. On many worlds, protests erupted. Some demanded reform. Others demanded resistance. Within the Empire, factions hardened. A radical group began plotting again, this time not with ships, but with lies. They spread rumors that humans planned to rule the Empire. Juan detected the information war quickly. They are turning fear into stories. Jiho nodded. Then we counter with facts. Humans released parts of their records publicly. Not threats. Not demands. Only truth. The effect was powerful. Imperial citizens saw patterns they could no longer deny. History shifted. During the talks, Callan asked a question that surprised everyone. What do humans want? Jiho answered simply. Balance. The word carried weight. We do not seek your throne, Jiho continued. We seek limits. Rethus exhaled slowly. Limits are difficult for empires. They are necessary, Jiho replied. As days passed, the empire's internal struggle grew more intense. Some fleets pledged loyalty to reform. Others withdrew to distant systems. One night, Era stood beside Jiho on the observation deck. Stars drifted silently outside. They may never forgive us, she said. Jiho nodded. That is not our goal. What is? That they remember this moment before they act again. The talks reached a breaking point when reports arrived of an imperial world refusing central command. The Empire was cracking under its own weight. Callan faced a choice. Force or change. He chose change. In a public broadcast, the Emperor acknowledged human power and responsibility. He admitted the Empire could no longer act without restraint. The galaxy listened. On the human battleship, silence followed the broadcast. TAEM, Ein finally spoke. "This is bigger than a battle." Jiho watched the stars. It always was. The Empire had not fallen, but it had bent. And everyone knew that once bent, it could never return to its old shape. The galaxy held its breath after the Emperor's broadcast. Words had been spoken that could never be taken back. The Empire had admitted limits, and admission was power leaving one place and moving to another. Across Imperial space, fleets waited for orders that did not come. Command chains felt thin and uncertain. Governors argued with admirals. Worlds that had always obeyed now asked questions. The human battleship remained where it was, silent and steady. On the bridge, Captain Jiho watched long-range reports scroll across the display. "They are unstable," he said, "but not collapsing." Juan nodded. An empire does not fall in one moment. It reshapes itself or breaks slowly. Era-adjusted communication filters. Several Imperial fleets are requesting guidance. Not commands, guidance. Jiho paused. "Tell them to stand down and protect civilians only." The message went out. It was obeyed. That obedience carried more meaning than any battle victory. In the capital, Emperor Kellen sat with Admiral Rethus in a quiet chamber. The noise of politics stayed outside thick walls. "They listen to you," Kellen said. "They listen to reason," Rethus replied. "Something we forgot to value." Reports arrived of one last fleet refusing reform. Its commanders believed that removing the human ship would restore fear and unity. They gathered strength in secret, far from the main routes. Rethus frowned. "They will try to strike once more." Kalan closed his eyes. "Then history will judge them." The rogue fleet moved fast and without warning. They aimed everything at the human battleship, hoping speed would succeed where force had failed. On the human bridge, alarms sounded for the final time. Teeman spoke calmly. "Full assault. No restraint." Jiho nodded. "Then this ends now." The human battleship powered up completely. For the first time, its full presence could be felt across space. Sensors struggled to process the energy flow. The Imperial attack struck hard. Beams and missiles slammed into layered shields. The ship held. "Return fire," Jiho said. "End capability." Not lives. Human weapons activated in perfect coordination. Precision strikes cut through command ships first. Engines failed. Weapon systems died. Communication arrays went dark. The rogue fleet fell apart in minutes. When silence returned, every hostile ship floated powerless. No second strike followed. The message was absolute. In the capital, Kalan watched the battle feed end. His shoulders sank. "It is finished," he said. "Yes," Rethus replied. "And so is the old empire." A formal treaty followed quickly. Imperial law was rewritten. Expansion limits were set. Independent worlds gained protection. Oversight councils formed, with humans as observers, not rulers. The galaxy adjusted. On smaller worlds, celebrations were quiet but sincere. For the first time, hope did not feel fragile. On the human battleship, preparations began to depart. Era stood near the viewport. "We could stay," she said. Ho shook his head. "Our presence taught the lesson. Staying would change the meaning." Teeman smiled slightly. "They will remember anyway." The Empire sent a final message of acknowledgement. It recognized humanity as an equal power and a stabilizing force. Jiho accepted without ceremony. As the battleship turned away. Imperial fleets parted without orders. Across the galaxy, stories spread. They spoke of a species that waited. They spoke of a ship that crossed every line and did not flinch. spoke of strength it chose control over. Destruction. The human battleship vanished into deep. Space docked behind it. The Galactic Empire watched and understood, something too late to deny. The most dangerous power was not the one that rushed forward. It was the one that stood its ground and forced the universe to change.